data management for the morning. Please remember to turn off or mute your cell phone or electronic devices. And please welcome Dana and Shailesh. Thank you so much.
So folks, I'd like to welcome you to this presentation. My name is Rafiee. I'm from Destiny Corporation. It's been a little while since I've been to CSUG. I went to probably about 20 of them over the course of my life. In fact, I used to come to CSUG and we used to do all the hands-on workshops here for many years. It was a lot of fun. So you'd see me sitting in a room presenting stuff technically, etc. But I thought I'd come back this year and talk a little bit about this. I've been using SAS teaching courses. I teach about 6 different classes in SAS. And my career has taken me and our company into interesting directions. And one of which is helping major corporations figure out how to do things better. Because corporations and government agencies grow up and they have lots of SAS users and they do all kinds of different things. And we see a lot of challenges out there. So we thought we would do a little bit of a different presentation on how we look at solving the challenges. Part of it's going to be in relation to what you can do as a coder or a user to make things run better and faster. And then what other organizations do when you want to look at other options. So what we're going to talk about today, a little bit about us and the concept of long-running jobs. That seems to be one of the biggest challenges that all of our clients deal with when they have users to create jobs that might run for several hours, several days. My friend Louise Haddon from App was talking about a job that runs for 4 days that she has to run every month. I mean, these are the realities that you see in organizations. So how do you speed them up? And then a little bit about why we decided to partner. We partner with very strategic vendors that support our clients. Because we don't build hardware or anything like that, but we found Vexata, and it makes a lot of sense. We'll explain why. And then we'll talk about some of this stuff and see if it makes sense for what you want to do. So a little bit about us. We're a business and technology consulting firm. We don't just do SaaS software, we do all kinds of analytics, but we do analytics support specifically on the infrastructure end. So a major corporation, a Humana, a Bank of America, whatever, says, I got 300 SaaS users and things don't run very well. How can you help us? And we come in and we design out the architecture so things work very well for these kinds of organizations. Our clients typically the Fortune 500, Fortune 1000, and we also teach SaaS. We have about 60 different some-odd courses in SaaS software we've been teaching for over 30 years. In fact, Destiny won the largest SaaS training contract in the world for the US Census Bureau to teach over 6,000 employees over 20 years how to work with SaaS. So that's a little bit about us and our background. What causes long-running jobs? We go to organizations, they say, hey, our users have created SaaS jobs and they run for hours or days or whatever. I mean, basic things. You got 3 primary things that I want to talk about. One is inefficient logic. And that's why you come to a conference like this, to say, let's learn better things, better ways of doing things. And we just saw the whole parallel concept with the previous gentleman. That's great. Large data. Okay, the whole big data thing, I don't want to use the word big data because that has a certain connotation, but large data. The data that we dealt with back in 1985 is nothing like what we deal with today. Quite often organizations are collecting data like crazy, you name it. But the third bullet is something that none of us typically deal with. We just have to live with it. And that is poorly designed servers, storage, and the architecture of that environment. So you don't have much of a choice. You're going to run something, and you have to run it on the servers that the organization gave you. And that's those are the 3 areas that we typically see. So what can you do? You can go out and optimize your code. You can look at different ways of writing code and changing syntax around, learning techniques at a conference like this. Large data, you can't do much about it. The data is the data. This is what they give you to run against. But the architecture is a very interesting concept because the number one thing, I used to tell a joke years ago, what's the slowest thing on a computer? The programmer. Okay, right. So aside from the programmer, the fact is it's I/O. And this is the most important thing a lot of people don't always think about. It's you have to take data that's stored on disk and you have to pull it off a disk into memory and process it and then write it back to disk. It's that movement back and forth that is the biggest challenge and people don't think about it. And if you look at your SAS logs very carefully, you're going to see a difference between what we call real time and CPU time. If you look at the log and you see CPU time of 1 minute and real time of 10 minutes, guess what? The machine is sitting there waiting for the data for multiple minutes. So we need to understand this latency issue and how to solve it. So from a SAS user perspective, we teach optimization courses and all kinds of fun things, and I run consulting teams that help organizations with this kind of stuff. And basically, we do all kinds of things for code. Go out and look at optimized methods, such as not only understanding the log, but less is more in SAS. Of course, you want to move less data and things run faster. Read data once, not multiple times. Read only the data you need. Keeps and drops and where clauses are obviously a big thing, because your goal is to make that data set as small as possible through your programming process. Set-based processing with SQL with indices, proper indices on the environments when you're joining tables together, as an example. If you're using in-database, Teradata, Netezza, Oracle, whatever makes sense, push processing in database. That's also another way of speeding things up. Sorting. Many users like to sort the same data set multiple times. Don't know why, but they do. Sort it once. Replacing data sets as you go to keep the size down. Process in memory when you can. Parallel processing. Another methodology out there, as you know, and we were actually the very first SAS partner with SAS Institute, is to introduce SAS Grid to organizations. And we like SAS Grid when you use it in a batch form. When you use it in the way it's sold today, enterprise guide, online, interactive sessions, we don't like that. We'll be the first ones to say it. But SAS Grid is a wonderful way of speeding things up, running things in parallel. Pulling data across your network. Horrible. The biggest, if you reach into your wallet, there are credit cards in there run by credit card companies where they have hundreds of SAS users that have NFS mounts that just suck data across the network, and it takes 3 days to get the data to the SAS server. Things like this we don't like. And then also thinking about basically getting better at what you do. Learning at a conference, learning techniques, and becoming a master at your craft. I'll tell you, I taught for so many years and just teaching every single day of the year. It still took me probably about 3 or 4 years every day to actually master SAS. That's the reality. So think about that if you can. This is all great, but it's too hard. And I'll be honest with you, for the majority of folks in your organizations, that doesn't work. Because SAS programmers, unlike you guys, are not there to become masters at SAS. It's a tool. And so they go out and they do certain things, and they try to make code better and try to make code work. But they don't, it's not their craft. And so when you go to a Humana, you've got 900 SAS users, great organization. Probably 25 of them really know what they're doing. Or an Aetna, or all these other companies that we work in. So what happens is you have lots of issues. You have SAS users that have been writing code for many years. Nobody likes to document anything. People retire, they leave, and the jobs run, and guess what? The IT guy has no clue what it's doing. He just knows the SAS bill comes in, and we got to pay it, and got to keep the lights on, and things like that. But that's the reality. That's what happens in an organization. It's a black box to IT folks. We go into organizations and we have routines that find millions of lines of SAS code. You think anybody wants to sit there and clean that stuff up? No. But it's important to the way the organization runs. So what else do? We look at the architecture. Again, we've been doing this for 30 years, and we spent the past probably 20 working with major organizations to look at architecture to help the IT guys help the business users. And that's why we partnered with Vexata. There's a very interesting thing here. This organization came from a bunch of guys who were key engineers at EMC. And EMC tried to create a SAS appliance because they knew there was a problem reading and writing to disk. They left EMC, they started their own firm, and they removed that latency of reading and writing to disk. So now your CPU time and real time are the same or better. And that's key. So the jobs that run multiple days now run in hours or even minutes. And the best part about this kind of thing and what we're taking to clients is you don't have to change your code. All that stuff I said you need to change and optimize and think about, you don't have to change anything. And the multi-hour job now runs in a matter of minutes if you're into it for performance. we've done a lot of different projects over the years, US, Canada, UK, etc., Europe, and with the proper infrastructure, we've helped organizations grow their SaaS environment because they're growing from 100 to 300 people to 900 to 2,000. We've done all kinds of different things, helping them actually manage their infrastructure costs on the way. Because that's another thing. When you talk to IT says, well, it's going to cost us money. It's like, actually, no. If you do it properly, it's not going to cost you more money. I was talking to Citi just last week, a major guy in Citi. He says, when you guys come and help us, he says the cost of you helping us is actually going to, if for every dollar we spend, we're going to save $10 in our infrastructure costs. And that's important because all we're talking about is doing things properly. So I'm going to hand this over right now to Shailesh from Vexata. And he's going to talk a little bit about the architecture.
Hey, good morning, folks. My name is Shailesh Manjrekar. I'm the Senior Director for Products and Solutions at Vexata. So frankly, we are a Silicon Valley-based company, and we have done something which is really transformative to SaaS, which hasn't been done in the last 20 years, right? And that's the reason why we're here to talk, right? We have partnered with Destiny Corporation, obviously for the skills they bring in and the expertise they bring in for the last 20 years, what they've been doing in SaaS, okay? So we are based out of Silicon Valley, a lot of marquee big customers, right? Like Anthem, Visa, Citibank, a number of those, and we're growing particularly in SaaS environments. There are a lot of venture capitalists and big companies who have put in money into us, like Intel Corporation. We're backed by Intel, we're backed by Toshiba, a lot of marquee VCs, right? Lightspeed Ventures, Mayfried, and so on, okay? So that's our background, a multi-billion-dollar valuation at this point, okay? So what do we do for SaaS? Okay, so we do three things. So just keep those three things in mind. Okay, as I said, very transformative technology, right? Oops. Right. So we first and foremost, as Dana said, and even the previous presenter who was here in the room, right, talked about parallelism, right? So we accelerate your data pipelines without any code changes. You continue to use your enterprise guide, you continue to use your enterprise miner, right? The tools which you are familiar with, right? And what we do, we solve that IO problem which Dana was talking about, okay? So as your jobs are waiting, if you look at your SaaS logs, if you look at your CPU time versus real time, we drastically bring that down. Okay, so that's really our value proposition, and it's seamless, right? So that's the best part about it. Okay, so that's the first and foremost kind of value prop. Also, 320 sessions is what we scale to with one box. Okay, and then you can add boxes to scale beyond 320 sessions, right? So really a powerful kind of infrastructure level solution. The second thing we do is minimize, right? So we've been hearing at all the SaaS conferences that SaaS is a great tool, right? But it's really the one kind of inhibitor to SaaS is really the higher pricing, right? And that's why people are looking at R and Python and other kind of tools, right? So what we do here is we basically make you better utilize your SaaS core licensing, right? So the number of licensing you need drastically reduces, right? Or you're able to better utilize your SaaS core, right? So that's the second part of the value proposition. And the third part, as I said, there are no code changes, right? So everything what you do as a programmer, as a developer, right, you will continue to use the same tool sets and so on, okay? So those are the three things. Any questions, guys? We have a few more minutes, okay? And that's what we sell, okay? So this is an infrastructure product. So we are looking at you guys as influencers to take this message back, right, to your IT guys, to your CXOs, and say, well, this is something very different, which we haven't seen in last couple years, 15 years, 20 years, right? And which would help us save money, kind of accelerate your pipelines, and simplify things, okay? I'll flash some slides, right? So this is the accelerated value proposition. As I said, faster business outcomes. If you're doing credit card processing, if you're doing CDOs, right? Whatever it is, you'll be able to get to faster outcomes, right? If you have jobs which were taking 4 hours, you can significantly bring them down to 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and so on, okay? So that's the first one. Second one is we are SAS Institute certified, so this is a completely SAS certified solution, okay? We are on the website. SAS has completed all the testing with our product, okay? As I said, better core utilization. You can basically, reduce your infrastructure costs significantly in terms of number of racks, better utilization of the cores, and so on, okay? And then finally, okay, so what are the proof points? So as we were talking about, right, so there are a lot of marquee customers right now using us, okay, for their SaaS applications. So this one particular client went from using 56 cores all the way up to 8 cores. Okay, so that was a drastic improvement in terms of his licensing. Okay, because we are now able to better utilize those 8 cores versus the 56 what he had over here. Almost 4 million in cost savings. The second example was a client which went from 96 hours of processing jobs to 4 hours of processing. Okay, so almost 2,400% faster processing time, right? So this is a magnitude of order improvement, guys, right? So that's the reason why we are here, right? We want to basically share this with you guys, okay? And the third one was around neural net processing. So as customers are using machine learning, deep learning, and things like that. So these are SAS Institute benchmarks. So as I said, we can scale all the way. You can start small, wet your toes with a product and go scale up non-disruptively, right, at infrastructure level, just by adding blades, okay? Second thing, what Dana talked about, right, CPU time versus real time, right? So we are way ahead of that 1.0 benchmark. What that means is once you start using us, you will see that your CPU utilization just rockets, right? So we make your CPU cores go a lot more faster. There are no I/O wait times on your programs, okay? You are able to get your data loads faster. You're able to reduce your job processing times, okay? This is a code from one of our partners, Intel Corporation, which again did a lot of testing with our product and SaaS. Okay, then also in addition to SaaS, we also work with other distributed file systems, right? Hadoop file systems, right? Which a lot of people use now for ETL purposes, right? Particularly for SaaS pipelines. So use Hadoop before that. So we work with Cloudera, Hortonworks, MapR, and so on as well. Okay. So finally, I would like to kind of talk to you how you guys can benefit. I'll hand it over to Dana. You want to?
Sure, happy to.
Okay.
So one of the things what we do and we offer to organizations is if you have long-running jobs, if you have a situation where your servers fall over, believe it or not, a lot of installs that we see, once the users start hitting things 10 o'clock in the morning, IT starts pulling their hair out saying, what's going on? If you have any of these kinds of situations, we're specialists in this area. It may be code, it may be infrastructure, it may be business process. We don't know. But we'd love to talk to anyone about this and say, hey, let's see what's going on. We come in and do a very simple health check, free assessment that is meetings or might be look at SAS logs or talk to folks. And then from there, we can determine what the issue is. And once you know what the issue is, now you make the decision on how you want to move forward. I mean, it could be the infrastructure is fantastic. It's just the process is out to lunch. I mean, as we've seen that in certain situations. And but other times we'll find that, hey, there is a bottleneck here. And we surface it, and now it's up to your organization to make a determination what you want to do to solve it. But that's something that we offer. And Vexata is a part of the discussion point here as appropriate. And we'd love to help. So this is what we do as an organization. And we've got a lot of background in this. And the result is always great. Guarantee that. So, questions? Yes, sir.
Did you say it was an appliance like the workflow data Exadata? It's a similar concept.
It's basically an appliance concept for storage. But it's a completely different design. NVMe's are in there, GPUs, things that we think about from a processing perspective. Shailesh can go into more
it's
detail.
really optimized for SaaS, right? But yeah, you're right. It's conceptually it's an appliance.
Yeah, beat me too. I was talking to some guy like 5 years ago. We should build like a SaaS appliance. I think that actually might work.
Well, and that's the thing. It's an interesting thing. I'll tell you, some of you may know us because we do a lot of in-database work.
Right.
And I'll never forget this. We like Netezza. We've been Netezza guys for many years. And Scotiabank, the head of IT there, had 45-hour SaaS models. And he's like, you got to help us. I'm like, well, if you move the processing into Netezza, which is changing your code, I don't care how you say it, it's changing your code. You push it in there, it'll run faster. I was at an IBM conference 2.5 years later. My phone rings in Vegas. He calls me up and he says, hey, you told me about this thing. We would help our SaaS guys. We still got 44-hour jobs running all weekend long. We can't do backups because the stuff still has to process. You can't touch the files. He says, this Netezza thing didn't work. And I just tell you about this because it's a process discussion. I said, listen, why don't you hire us? Let's see what the guys are doing. We came in, we looked at 2 models that they were building. And our guys looked at it, and a day later, something that came back with modified code. And it now runs. Like, well, how long does a 44-hour model run? And the guy, this Russian dude, says, well, this one runs in 12 seconds. How about the other one? They ran, 36 hours. He says, well, that one's not as good. That's 15 seconds. Okay. So that's a process thing. People not understanding the infrastructure that you have, but you have to go and change that. It's hard to get people to change. I don't know how old you guys are, but in life, it's hard to get people to change. And so this does the change without them touching it. And that's why we really like it, as an example. Yes, sir, question?
Yeah, maybe it's Shailesh. If it is an IO issue, how is your experience with working with cloud storage or net appliance server farms instead of, let's say, ELC?
Yeah. Well, so cloud storage, I mean, what we have seen, especially in the SaaS world, right? So a lot of these are regulated industries, right? So they don't want to put their data into the cloud, right? Archiving is fine, but mostly all the processing happens on-prem, okay? So that's the first part. Second part is server-based solutions, what they will do is extremely poor utilization, right? So again, to that earlier point about the TCO, they cannot give you that performance what we can do. So the reason why we are considered as a cutting edge technology, right, in Silicon Valley is because we're doing something different than
My question is, do you always end up recommending a new server solution or you can work with the existing?
No, yeah, good point, good point. And sorry, and again, just to clarify, so when I said a SaaS appliance, so it doesn't mean you are bringing in, it's a rip and replace play, right? Whatever you guys have, we would be able to seamlessly connect into your infrastructure. Okay, well, it doesn't matter whether you have fiber channel, whether you have NVMe, whether you have Ethernet, right? So that's yet another beauty, right? It's not just about changing the code, but it's also about not changing your infrastructure. We'll be seamlessly able to connect in your existing environment.
Let me tell you what will happen, which is very interesting. If you're geeky like we are, if you look at the CPU utilization, have you ever looked at perfMON on your laptop and you see how much CPU is being used? If you look at CPU utilization on servers in major corporate America, you'll see 20% utilization, 25%, nothing. Because the servers are there, very expensive servers, and they're sitting there waiting for the data. If they don't wait anymore, all of a sudden the CPU utilization goes up to 90%. And so the licenses, because SAS charges by core, and you pay for 24 cores or 32 or whatever, all of a sudden now you get to use those licenses to their full capacity. So you're going to see the I/O bit change from a disk issue now to say, wow, look, I thought we had to go out and buy more cores in server. We don't have to anymore because we're actually getting more utilization. So these are the things that happen when you remove that latency. It's a very interesting scenario, it really is.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So it sounds like you're combining RAM disk with GPU processors.
Yeah, it's not RAM disk, it's actually NVMe flash. It's a next generation of storage technology. Okay, so we don't use, because RAM disk is extremely expensive. So by the way, these products, the price points are extremely compelling, right? So you will basically, we have customers just fall off the chair. And by the way, our sales team is back. In fact, so if you guys have more questions, you can certainly reach out. But this is a magnitude of order economical, right, compared to RAM-based solutions, right? So we don't do any RAM. This is an NVMe flash storage technology, next-gen storage.
There are, about a dozen patents on this that Vexata has?
Yeah, there are
that
about...
no other storage vendor in the world is doing. It's amazing stuff. And again, we don't typically put our name next to a vendor unless we see it's proven and it makes sense. So anyway, yes?
Do you have any kind of documentation to bring back to our IT people?
Oh, yeah, we
so
can get you
ma'am,
documentation.
all the brochures have been put in your SAS bag, the bag you got, yeah. But if you still want, just come over, right, and we'll take your contact and then happy to send you, right? Yeah. Just as a data point, right? So if you were to talk to your IT guys, it's $2,000 a terabyte, right? So it's extremely economical. And then our sales guy Ron is sitting in the back. If you guys want to talk more, certainly.
Else, thank you very much. Cards, if anybody wants a card, please feel free.
This gentleman's here this morning. That was good.